What do you think the Predacons should have done in Starscream? I know there's a large range of opinions in the fandom. Maybe you absolutely hate Starscream and want him to be killed. Maybe you think, fair enough, he deserves a little beating but not death. Maybe you just hope he escapes harm altogether because you love him. You might like robots in disguise, but most of us don't. And so, how do you want Transformers Prime to end? About 5 months of work later, I present to you the first part of an interactive story game. This is a choose your own adventure story where you make these choices and more as the main character, Predaking. Essentially, you build a fanfiction where you decide what kind of bot Predaking is. The game is called Mercy to represent your power. Do you give mercy? And who do you give it to? Will you use your physical strength for good or dominance? Here is the blurb for the concept I wrote in April. You might be wondering why I chose Predaking as the playable character, especially when Starscream is my favorite. There are quite a few reasons. Not everyone likes Starscream, and I want options to completely decimate him or remove him from the story. Conversely, your story can completely focus on him as the main plotline. See, Starscream is already a character with a set personality, and he can't turn Autobot and trustworthy in an instant. But Predaking and the Predacons are extremely young, Predaking being less than a year old, I believe. They can very easily change their personalities, maturing or turning violent. The goal was to put in a huge range of options for what you think is the appropriate response. I left some extreme options of super nice and ridiculously cruel for your entertainment. Predaking is also a character with enough strength to impact other bots' lives. You take control of Starscream's fate and others, yet the game is full of discovery and adventure if you don't go full evil. The story shows the gap between Predacons Rising and Robots in Disguise, at least in how society is rebuilt. This event does not necessarily happen, but is one path that can be triggered. Predaking needs to find the answer to one burning question: is there a place for Predacons in civil society? As a weapon of war, a war that has ended, where does he go and what does he do? When will strength be useless? Predaking has a special freedom as well. No one really sees him as a Decepticon because he didn't choose it, and he never killed an Autobot, and he was misguided for a short amount of time. He is generally welcomed anywhere, but at the same time he's an intimidating presence. Will you lean toward the Autobots and their goals, or will you sympathize with the bitter cons returning to an Autobot world? Witness the societal pressure in Megatron's absence as ships return carrying both factions. I want to reveal stories and mysteries in the little conversations, the ones only hinted at before. The scale of the story is large, with a current goal of 300 videos. Part 1 includes at least 30, I believe, which will be launching in October or November at the latest. I'm sure you want to know how this game functions. I was inspired by the format of Markiplier's YouTube story games, in which at the end of each video, you click on a link to another video to make your choice. The first video is public, the rest are unlisted, which means you can't see them all on my channel. You have to play through and make the discoveries. How do you organize a choose your own adventure? Here is some advice for anyone who wants to do a written story. Mercy is organized on Google Forms. You create a section as though it were a question, and then you put down the options like a multiple choice. You create the other sections and link them back to the question. If you want to make a story like this, do not post it to fanfiction.net because it is against their rules. Try Archive of Our Own instead. I will post the text version of part 1 after I have done some edits. So what will you get in October? Part 1 is where you decide what happens to Starscream and where you will live first. Where you live can change based on your emotions and what you were offered. The details of Starscream are very complex and will change your future. The entire story is about consequences, but they are not unfair. You should be able to understand them. If Predaking thinks he can dish out justice with violence, he is going to be more inclined to violence in the future. If you are very animalistic, you are going to be influenced by instincts. So Starscream, you don't have to do what your heart says, but you can purposely stir things up just for a more dramatic story. The first choice you encounter in the game is important, but not the end of your world, so I will give some explanation. Starscream is cornered on the throne, and you are faced with a high violence option, a minimal violence option, and a no violence option. You can start attacking him in beast mode. but you don't have to be worried about killing him instantly. You get a lovely range of hurting him a little, hurting him a lot, killing him, and even letting Skylynx and Darksteel get involved. This game gives you the chances to pull back before going too far, so Starscream can still be let go. Or you can have fun deciding exactly how to dispose of his body. You can go neutral and give Starscream a death threat to frighten him, or you can go soft and decide you can't attack him because you're just way too strong. Your kindness is so unexpected that Starscream will find you suspicious and frightening, but that could lead to an interesting trust-building story. You might have left Starscream minimally hurt so he isn't out for revenge. Maybe you can still befriend him. Maybe you mauled him, but because you left him alive, he will come after you. If you killed him, how do you think the Autobots will see you? What if they see his mutilated corpse and know exactly what you could do to anyone? A cautious player might want to avoid the extremes, but all these things could lead to unique experiences. There are several bosses to encounter, enemies you created intentionally or not. All timelines have one, even if you are the nicest character ever. That is because the world does not revolve around Predaking and things are happening out of sight. Characters do not stand around waiting to give you items, they are living their own lives. Although you can gain money in the game and buy a few things, and bots might offer you free items. The paths are quite fair. I love choose your own adventure stories, but I hate when options are like, turn left and this happens, turn right and this happens. Every choice is an argument in Predaking's head, showing the advantages and disadvantages. But no matter what you choose, everything will be in the same spot of the universe if you didn't influence it. One event will happen at the same time across all timelines. Here's more detail about the setup. Each video gets at least one primary image to set the scene. This is also limiting, so to help it feel more alive, faces with different emotions will appear in the text area. To also show you what Predaking has on hand, there is an item bar. I'm also including a bar for health and energon levels to show you Predaking's condition. You need to look at it when considering options because you can die and lose the game. In part 1, there's only one way to die, but I would like the game to have about 30 deaths. If you run out of energon, you die. If you are too heavily injured, same deal. But consider the levels as how strong you currently are. If you are low on energon and hurt, do you want to start fights? The face here will also remind you if you are in bot or beast form currently. I am also selecting no copyright music and sound effects for the videos. And the music I have been playing here right now are on that playlist. Although the theme that was inspiring me that I can't use was Bloody Mary by Lady Gaga. This game is also about adding in new concepts so it is fresh. We think the primes are great, but we don't get to hear about all of them so much. This game includes something ancient of Alchemist Prime that I made up. There will also be more colors of Energon. The game also seeks to solve fan questions like, hey, what about Arachnid and the zombies on the moon? Is Soundwave okay? Can we rescue him? Or is blank character? The fun thing is that spaceships are returning and the population is rising. I have the power to put in whoever I want on those returning ships, who can appear in the background of scenes and say a few lines. Some are crucial characters, and this is where the community can get involved for work past part 1. Here are some characters I plan to include. The Dinobots, the Aerial Bots, Jetfire, Cup, Ironhide, Prowl, Slipstream, Barricade, some Junkions like Wreck-Gar, some Velocitronians, Ripclaw coming out of the tube. I need much more Decepticons as minor characters, and now you can share in the comments who you would like to see appear in this world. Unfortunately, some characters are dead in the line, such as Thundercracker and Skywarp, so please do a quick read on Wiki before making suggestions. The project is about freedom, so you can make a difference to the game. How? The story is large, but what I really need help with is the art. The pictures are what makes the game take so much time to produce. Are you a Transformers Prime artist who is comfortable drawing bots? Your signed pictures could become main images in their own videos. If you are interested, message me, preferably on Tumblr. We can talk about who you like to draw, if you want to draw something violent or friendly, and you can take weeks or months to do it. I am super thankful because each picture saves me about 10 hours of time or a week of time. I just want to ask the community, how comfortable are you with different art styles possibly appearing in the same game? I haven't asked for fan art in part 1 yet, because I wanted to show you all how serious I was about this. I got the work to prove it, and you can see all the story art right now on DeviantArt. However, that could be spoilers, so you can avoid it and wait for the game. I also post a bit on my Tumblr, but not everything, and I talk with the community more there. Links down below. Just yesterday, I put out the concept of the title page. A cover image is very important, and I wanted all the feedback I could get. It turned into some lovely redesigns, and I think it is super cool that the fandom took part in creating the cover. I wanted something simple of Predaking, but with a visual representation of the bloody paths he can walk on. I also chose the colors blue and purple because in their culture, those could be the colors of good and evil. Yet good is the same color as blood, so I thought it was a neat thing that you could still be good and spill blood sometimes. I put out the basic format and Tumblr user Roboverse handed me this one. I personally like this one because the color of blood was filled up inside him. I was struggling a bit with the original, about whether to include imaginary blood somehow, if some real blood couldn't be on his face, if I can have nothing. So please comment below exactly what you like. I also sent the concept to a co-artist. This Tumblr user has agreed to help with future scenes, and they sent me back this work. I also really like the representation of the imaginary blood, but there was also a chaotic, creepy text font. Whatever you like best, I will put into the first video. Praise these artists by following the links to their Tumblr accounts. It was super exciting to have people working on the project, and so I encourage these artists to show off their work because I love it all. The artist of this piece is actually developing their own game, and you might find it way more fun than my serious story game. So their Tumblr is called speeddate.mech. I think you got it. They are developing a dating game in the format of a visual novel. The description is, you get to date all the main bots and cons from Transformers Prime in a post-war Cybertron setting. There are mini-games during the dates, you can give your date food and buy them gifts. There are CGs to unlock. It is also a large-scale project taking time to develop, but you can track the progress and give your support to them by following the links once again. There are a few changes I would like made to the designs though. We want to eliminate the jarring mash change, so Predacon bot forms are going to be larger and the beast forms shrunk a tiny bit. They're still very big and you might not have noticed until I said that, but I want them to look like they can become dragons. Arcee's bot form is also going to be smaller to look like she can become a motorcycle. Old tires are going to be shrunk because they are too big in bot form. Skylynx's wings need a change because they are way too small for flight. I'm doubling them and going to adjust how they fold up in bot form because in the movie they just shrunk. I did a slight modification to the tips of Darksteel's wing feathers so they don't look so rectangular. For new characters or characters with just toys, I am adding a lot more detail because Prime characters like Predacons have a lot of decorative plating. On Ripclaw, I took elements from her face, these spikes with fans, and I am adding them along her body. It allows for emotional representation when she flares or closes the fins. It also makes her look very spiky, like she'll rip something. Her wings are also getting expanded like Skylynx's. Also, I will go back to the earlier concept art for the story and improve them before launch with what I learned. So this wasn't really a surprise to my Tumblr and DeviantArt followers who knew about this project for a while. I have been dropping hints to it in my last videos, testing who knew what was coming. Some people may notice themes taken from my past creations. Some things I personally love, such as Viacon individuality and discrimination, Starscream's inability to be accepted by society and his need for a disguise, Slipstream's return, saving Soundwave, threat of a Predacon uprising, the rebuilding of Voss under the command of Jetfire and the aerial bots, the fight against Arachnid, supernatural elements, info on where Megatron and Shockwave disappeared to, the reopening of space bridges to the colonies, the return of animal life on Cybertron. I had started writing a fanfiction about Starscream's youth, but I scrapped it and now you can hear pieces of his backstory if you try befriending him in the game. It is possible to do so, but it is a little challenging. Any character you try to befriend will open up to you and tell all kinds of stories and sometimes show you locations. That is my favorite part in writing this project. You may like the ends of the paths, in which you can have chances to switch to new characters. This can be when Predaking is close to death or just for a perspective flip. So far, there are plans to finish the game as Starscream, Knockout, or Arcee, depending on the path.
Oh my god! Okay, it's happening! Everybody stay calm!
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm!
Wait.